welcome to Let's Get It, the Atheist Roundtable. Toss the mic, tell us what's good tonight. Yeah, get this man a goddamn cam so we can plan to crush tonight. It's murder. It was the case they gave him. Even Jesus couldn't save him. He believes he'll slay him. Murdershed Steve got these thieves on their fucking knees. ST jump with a Murdershed beat.
Chop it up.
Why you asking all these questions? What are you suggesting? Why am I second guessing? Then GSEB surgically removing these hypotheses. Yeah, and get out the way. Get out the way. This kid don't play. If you got a God, I'd call him. If you got a book, I'd hide him. Just Jeff. Question so hard, they'll punch you in the chest. So the best bet, invest in a bulletproof vest. Ozzy, kamikaze. Run the track back, in attack what we lack. Stand back, I unpack, the counter attack. In the comeback, the sad sack. They should've never said that. And faith is bullshit as a matter of fact.
Which faith is bullshit.
Man, we're going down on a deep dive.
Which faith is bullshit.
Hey, somebody mute Oz.
Which faith is bullshit. Which faith is bullshit. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. It's TART Live. I am Oz, Ben, G, S, E. What's up, my man?
How's it going, Oz? I'm just chilling. I'm sipping on anybody from Atlanta. Check out the Monday Night Brewing Company. I've got some Drafty Kilt, their Scottish ale.
The ATL shoddy.
Oh, yeah.
So, Ben, let's peep that shirt. What shirt you wearing?
Oh, yeah. So, recently, I've got a Street Epistemology, some branded material. Just thought I'd wear it and shout out. Got some stickers for my Tic Tacs, for my TikToks. I'm really excited to be.
For the TikToks.
That's right. It's Tic Tac TikTok. You didn't know that? Come on.
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, you didn't know? Benji with a SE.
The Bruce Lee of the SE. So, Ben, here in a couple days, Sunday to be exact, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have a certain gentleman join us. Tell us a little bit about Sunday night show.
Yeah, so Sunday night we're going to have Anthony Magnabosco. Now, if you haven't heard, Anthony Magnabosco is the one who started, who's like the original poster for Street Epistemology content. Now, Street Epistemology is a term coined by Peter Boghossian in his book. I think it came out in 2013. It's called A Manual for Creating Atheists. Now, his newest book, which I highly recommend, is called How to Have Impossible Conversations. And I've gotten about 3 chapters in it so far, and it just came out last year. Basically, it's like a toned down version. Like, so you've got A Manual for Creating Atheists, which is all about faith, which is all about intervening in people's cognitive just like cycles and reinforcements of faith. This one is about, it can be applied much more broadly, and I think it accomplishes a lot of the tasks that I originally sought to accomplish in my early days. So Anthony Magnabosco will be on Sunday night, and he, man, like when I was fresh out of high school, my first couple years of college, I found his videos, and I've been a fan ever since. And really, that's the whole reason why I'm here now.
For sure, yeah. And Anthony directed the past for Pasta Mike and Ben to start that relationship with TART. And now, obviously we're very excited and grateful to have Ben with us. And when it comes to SE Street Epistemology, Ben really is a student of the game, so to speak. And it's awesome. Even to watch him grow on the platform. I watched some of the earlier episodes when Ben first joined us to where he's at current day, and just his confidence, his growth, and all that has been exponential just in a short, few months. So SE works. I don't care what everybody says. SE works. But no, it'll be good Sunday, and we'll talk a little more about SE, towards the end of the show when we get into that. But really, where we want to start the show tonight, Ben, is talking about first and foremost childhood beliefs. And some of the things we're introduced to, and that doesn't even just mean God, Jesus, so on and so forth. But I even know, and I've had conversations with people that Santa Claus was something that their parents introduced to them at a very young age, and when they found out that it wasn't real, really crushed them. There's one gentleman, Mike Carey. He has a YouTube channel, and he shares this, that he, for the longest time, as a kid, when he grew up, what he wanted to do as his job is to move to the North Pole and help build toys for kids that their parents couldn't afford to build toys.
Wow.
Right. And first of all, you have to admire that as a kid, that this kid wants to go, like, here's my aspirations, is to go help other kids, but then he talks about it, and he shares how crushing it was when it was like, oh man, fucking Santa ain't real.
Like, I can't, it's like, here's this purpose I've given to myself, and now you're basically taking away my purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So even things like that, but, but for our conversation tonight, it could be many things, but for our conversation tonight, talking about faith and God and Jesus and the Bible and those things, Ben, I'll let you start off. Could you, give us a background, where and how did you come to believe in a God as a kid?
Sure. I distinctly remember a time where we started going to church regularly. I think like the first few years of my life, I don't remember church being like a huge part. But by the time I was 8 or 9, I distinctly remember I used to love Sunday mornings because I could just play, I think it was Tony Hawk Pro Skater on my Nintendo 64. And like my Sunday mornings, I would be playing that game at like 8 years old. And then I was about 9 years old. We started going regularly. And we had gone before. And my dad was a performer for Big Church, as we called it. I went to a fairly large United Methodist church. We had about, I think, 5,000 members total, and 1,000 would show up every week. So I just kind of grew up going there, and I eventually became enamored with this idea that, okay, like God is love, and one of the greatest things that we can do with our lives is to live like Jesus. And we really emphasized some of those like liberal ideals. So all of the kind of like you should give to the poor, and like rich people are generally unethical, even though it's perfectly fine to be an American. So like I had this very kind of moderate liberal church growth mindset. Now, we did just believe. Like I don't think I needed a good reason to believe in God. It's just, well, God is real. And I don't even remember using the word faith, or like it wasn't beat into me. It was just like one of those things that we assumed was true. And that was true for my parents. That was true for my all of my Sunday school teachers, my best friends. Well, and really what led me out, or what led me to question and go further, was I really wanted to be a leader within my church. And so I was just like, great, what do I need to know? Like, what are the things that I don't currently know that I need to know? And so that's when I started studying a little bit more. And then I realized that, okay, I need to have good reasons for believing in God. And then it was about that time when I was a junior, senior in high school, when I started having serious doubts. And eventually, by my senior year, I think I was pretty much comfortable acknowledging the fact that I didn't think that a literal God existed. I think I realized that my belief in God was always that God was love, or God was just something that we couldn't understand. And then I realized, like, okay, what's the difference between that and an atheist? And so kind of, so here I am. So I hand it back over to you, Oz. What was that like for you?
Before I dive into that, I do have a question there. So when you're going to church, and it's funny you said that, because I remember the similar lingo, the big church,
big church and contemporary church. Yeah. One had rock band and one had a like a chorus, right?
Did you attend like a kids' church, Sunday school, youth group? What did that look like for you?
Oh, good question. Yeah, all the way through middle school, I was in church two or three times a week. Like every Sunday, I'd be there from whichever first service I went to all the way until 7 or 8 p.m. I loved using the recreation center. The youth group, we had a youth hall, so we had like a room for each grade level, including like a hangout room for secondary students. I mean, I was in church all day Sundays, right after school on Wednesdays I would go in. I mean, my life was very much like doing band most of the week and then church on Wednesdays and Sundays. And Saturday was always the day that maybe I had to myself. So, let's see. What was the root of your question? What was it that I was trying to answer?
Well, no, you answered. So Sunday school, and then did you have as you got older? Did you attend like youth group? Did you have youth functions, things like that?
Yeah, we had youth group. I guess twice a week. We had the Wednesday night youth group, and then Sunday, both Sunday school and Sunday night. We always had different names for it. In United Methodist Church, we called it Ignite, which was like, because like the symbol has the cross with the fire next to it. That's the UMC symbol. So we called it Ignite because we were igniting our passion for our, this is bringing back a lot of memories. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, we go all the time. I was a drummer for the youth band. So what was it? Early Wednesday afternoon, we would have our little rehearsal and perform Wednesday night. And yeah, I gave a sermon at one point at Contemporary Church, which was like the big, like half of the big church. So I mean, I was a leader. By the time I was a sophomore, junior in high school, I was a leader within my youth group.
I'm laughing just because for me too, the memories of big church and little church and kids church and medium church and
yeah.
Whose church are we at right now? But to try to encapsulate it, mine was similar in the fact of or as far as the structure that you shared. Whereas Sunday morning, Sunday night, we're there on Wednesdays. Then my mom, being the music pastor, were there not all the time, but she would have music rehearsal or practice on Monday nights. We were there for that. If there's any special events, obviously we had to do rehearsals for that. And I was part of the band, so I had to be there for rehearsal for the youth group band. So the structure, I guess, the cadence, of being there, you can expect to be there these days of the week, every single week. All of that was there. Now as a kid, Sunday school, every Sunday, period. And we even went to the early one. Like they had the Sunday school. That was like pre-church Sunday school. Like, so if you're extra Christian and like you want a little extra dose of God, you got there before everybody else did, and you did that. Then they had regular Sunday school, and kids church and all that. And, and I remember all of the, just Bible story after Bible story after Bible story, and just being inundated, and being indoctrinated into this thing, this faith, this religion. And when I look back at it, nobody ever told me, encouraged me, or coached me to, hey, Austin, you should question some of this. Go find it out. Go find it out for yourself. Don't believe it just because I said so, or because the youth pastor says so. Go find truth for you, and seek that truth. It was actually the polar opposite. It was, no, this is what we believe, and we take it by faith, and we don't question it. We don't question God. We don't question the Bible. We don't even question whether the Bible is accurate or not. We just assume that the Bible is in the inherent Word of God, and it is what it is. So that's just how I was raised. Their critical thinking was not allowed. It was discouraged. It was 100% discouraged. And if you were questioning God or the legitimacy of your faith or the existence of a God, either the devil was working on you, or your faith was diminishing, or you were just never really a Christian, which is what I still hear today as an atheist. It's ironic, but
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll put myself in that camp because I'm like, viewing it from any evangelical perspective, I was not compared to a lot of people. And it's hard saying that when I think about literally 5,000 members at my church. would all be thrown in that camp. And that's just, as a kid, I never would have understood that.
Yeah, it's so when I look back at it now as an adult, almost 40 years old, it's mind-boggling to me because, like, with my children now, even my stepkids, I at least once a week I probably say this, if not more often. I'm not going to tell you or teach you what to think or what to believe. But I am going to teach you and coach you on how to think and how to break these things down. And if you still come to a God belief, good for you. I'm not here to take it from you, but I want you to come to that belief, having exercised all logic, all reason, and all critical thinking that you have at your disposal. So it's when I look back at it now, there's some moments I'm happy, I'm obviously happy that I'm at where I'm at now. But there's sometimes that my heart does break, that no one helped me to think critically. They didn't teach me I didn't even know what that was. Like even up till a few years ago, when I started building relationships within this community, I didn't truly understand what critical thinking was, what it meant to question a belief, and why do we believe what we believe in. So when I know a lot of Christians hate hearing the word indoctrination, but when you are literally immersed in something and you're held under the water, so to speak, and they tell you can't question it, or you're sinning, or you don't really love God, or you don't have enough faith, what else would that be other than indoctrination? And force feeding somebody to believe what you want them to believe. So and that's where I know your journey and your path and mine are different. Mine was much more extreme on the indoctrinational part, but with your structure and how you grew up, and then you hear my story or other ones like that. How do you see that now as a former believer and now an atheist? But it was a little more friendly, so to speak, where you came from. How do you view that extreme indoctrination where it's force fed? How do you view that from your side of the road?
Yeah, it's like I'm identifying in the ways that, like, I grew up assuming things were true, not really questioning, but I didn't have to be told not to question. So what I'm gathering a lot is that, well, I'll say it this way. Anytime I had a question, it was just like, well, the most important thing is that you're living like Jesus. What would Jesus, like, seriously, what would Jesus do would have been kind of the way to go. You can't go wrong if you're behaving the way Jesus did. And that was always kind of like, I didn't have leaders in my church telling me that I was a bad person. And I think what you're doing with your kids, what you're saying about, you're really giving them the freedom. You're saying, look, I'm going to love you no matter what. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm going to give you my view on how to think critically. And like, I totally understand within church circles, we are thinking using a rationality that is not within how the world works. And so that's hard to hear, but all we can do is say, look, here's how I think about things. To me, this works. To me, this is how I have been wrong less often using this method of thinking. And so you can apply it yourself, and I give you the freedom. My love for you is not attached to this belief. So that's really, really, I think, important. And that's something that I had. My parents did tell me basically whatever. Well, and I'll put it into context, and this might actually be a good transition for our the next segment here. I grew up with a sister who's 9 years older than me. And I heard her and my mom in screaming matches outside of my door. My sister has bipolar disorder, and my parents have caught boys in her bedroom right next to my bedroom. She's come home drunk and smoking and all those things. And so I grew up in this context where I always wanted to be like the good kid. Like I knew what doing the bad things would lead to. And generally what I was afraid of was just my parents coming down on me. So that I ultimately became, I think, more successful out of that. But I also knew that whatever I did that was bad paled in comparison to what my sister was doing or had done. So I had this kind of context that I think a lot of people lack, where it didn't really matter what I believed because I was behaving well. So maybe that helps put that into context for some people.
And until you just shared it, I forgot that you and I have similarities, but
Yeah.
you were the good one with you and your sister. I was the bad one with my brother and I.
That's what I remember.
So we we share that experience, but from opposite sides of the train track, so to speak. And I can say that's if my brother were here, he'd probably say, yeah, Austin made it a lot easier for me.
Right.
Austin made it a lot easier for me, to be a good kid because he was such a badass, But before we do go to the next segment, we talk childhood beliefs.
Sure.
So let's rewind. We talked about youth group and everything, but from the first moments that you start to have memories of being in church and being around religion, Ben, did you ever choose to believe in God, or was that something that you just you grew up with it and you just believed it because that's what happened in your family?
There's two big moments that I remember. One was there's this group called Team Impact. They were evangelical ex-wrestlers. They used to be pro wrestlers, and they put on this show. So at the big Baptist church, they had 5,000 in regular attendance at this big Baptist church. But on stage, they would run through glass wall. They came to my middle school. I think I was probably in 6th grade when this happened. They came to my middle school or elementary school, whichever, and put on a demonstration and invited us personally and gave us little pamphlets or stickers to come to the church. I remember there was a story about a virus and, if you as a father had a son, would you sacrifice your son, all the blood of your son to save humanity? The moral of the story was God sacrificed his son for all of humanity. I stood up, felt a weight lifted off my shoulder. I had a religious experience. I gave my life to Christ, right? I had already done that. I was already a believer. I already knew all those. I felt like I knew those things. It just felt important at the time. Second, there was middle school confirmation. I think 6th or 7th grade. So around that same time, maybe 7th grade, I think we were 12 years old, and we had a confirmation, which was a series of classes where we learned more about the United Methodist Church. Did I actually know anything about the United Methodist Church at the end of that? I know who John Wesley was at this point. But other than that, we didn't dive deep into any of the literature. We didn't hear any arguments about God or anything like that. But at those 2 points, I remember accepting religion. So, but that was already 3 or 4 years after learning about that stuff, after being immersed, and probably a lifetime of going to church and not even remembering it. So those are the points. What about you? Or
first, yeah, and I'll share mine, and we'll go into the next. We'll talk about the standards of evidence. But would you say then at that point that you had been at a young age convinced, or was it a decision that I believe, or were you persuaded, as the Bible even says, persuaded or convinced, or did you make a decision that, yes, this is what I believe?
I think, to my understanding, I did say that is what I believe at those points. And it's funny because I already believed them, and I don't think anything fundamentally changed. So without those 2 moments, I could probably say, no, not really. But I also remember specifically saying, yes, I believe, and truly believing it. So I guess maybe there wasn't a point where I became convinced. I just already knew for a long time. These are good questions. I'm not really sure.
Okay. And that's where, for me, I remember, like you said, once or twice, whether it was in youth group or whatever, or even as an adult, after my car accident in 2003, where it was like, okay, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but it wasn't me. Like I rolled out of bed, like you and I discussed earlier, like I rolled out of bed and was like, yep, Today's it. I believe in God, and I don't know why I believe, but I believe in God. People don't do that. Just like they don't roll out of bed and like, oh, the unicorn's real. I believe in the unicorn today. No, that doesn't happen. There was a convincing, there was a persuasion over time that happened. And when for me, it was the years, from the time my earliest memories are in church. Mm-hmm. Those are my earliest memories. And you fast forward through time and all of those things keep going on. So I was persuaded. And through the persuasion, I was convinced that God was real. Didn't have a justified reason to believe it other than I was persuaded, then convinced that this thing was real. So that's when I hear people talk about, well, I grew up around church and around faith, and that's what I know. So it must be real. And I know that sounds like I'm minimizing that argument, but that is what I hear a lot of the time. That doesn't make it real, guys. That just because you grew up with it and mom and dad told you and youth pastor and pastor told you does not make it legitimate, does not make it a truth claim. So then that does segue us into the next portion, which is what should our standards of evidence look like? What should that be? So now, Ben, obviously we're on the atheist roundtable together, but we're both atheists and we lack a belief in a God. But now when we start talking about that with either, theists or maybe somebody that's now become skeptical and questioning their belief where they're at, what are some good standards of evidence when it comes to a God claim? Yeah,
great question. I told you before this show, I knew this show would start to fly by. We're already at like 27 minutes. I want to point out to the people in the chat, thank you guys for being there. Remember that like super chats and those super stickers are like a real thing. They really do help the show. So I really appreciate you guys chatting down there. I see like Sean, I see some of the regulars like Britt and I, the science guy, Pasta Mike, and some others down there. So I want to make sure that I shout those guys out. To your question, standards of evidence. Basically, I think about standard of evidence as, well, if I just don't understand something, I need to learn more. There's very few things that I'm an expert about, that I'm an expert in. And if I'm questioning, right, God, I wouldn't even say that I'm like firmly in the atheist camp, right? It's just like, this is where I am until I know more. As soon as there's potentially maybe a scientific explanation, and I would say God would be a scientific explanation. If we could explain God through science, do you not think that everybody would jump to that? Everybody who's an evangelical would cling to that? Like that's what we did with the God molecule. It's the right. It looks like a cross, and all of a sudden we got of course God exists, right? It's like pointed to like that. It's like very loose connections. Really, my thing is, when it comes to having conversations with people you disagree with, and this is where, again, I would plug How to Have Impossible Conversations. Yeah, it's right here. With, Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay. When it comes to having those kind of conversations, approach it. Don't try to win the argument. You don't have a message. I don't have a message when I'm approaching a theist and trying to learn something. Seek first to understand is the first message I would try to put out there. As soon as you understand an argument, and if you think it's a good argument, you should, until you fully understand it, you won't know if you should be convinced or not. So seek first to understand. I don't know, steelman is another term that I've put out there. Don't just assume that you know how it works. Here's a really good exercise in that. Oz. All right. Ben. There's this thing that I was just reading about today in this book, How to Have an Impossible Conversation. It's called the unread library effect, where we just assume that we know how things work. Oz, how does your coffee maker work at home? Do you drink coffee?
No, but I know how they work.
How does your toilet work?
I piss in it and flush it.
Yes, and then what's inside the toilet that makes it work?
Water.
Are you aware that there's like several different mechanics on the inside that are going? Do you know what they're called?
I know there's a lever and a pump or something.
How confident are you that you know how a toilet works?
20.
Okay, so this is my point. When people will claim to know how something works, of course I know how a toilet works. Of course I know how a coffee maker works. But you get into details and you just ask about them. I don't have a message here. I don't know how a toilet works. But yet you were confident that you knew how a toilet worked, just for the sake of conversation. And so, yeah, it's like, but all of a sudden, once we're asked some questions about it, our confidence level drops. Like, there's more here that I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you end the conversation, is on that note of, I've got to learn more. And as soon as you're talking to an expert in toilets, they'll be able to explain it to you perfectly. Maybe someone who manufactures toilets. And then what you've gained, you haven't won an argument, right? It's not an argument. Then you haven't won an argument or anything. You're just, now you've gotten a lesson in how toilets work. And then you can spread the gospel of toiletry. So there you go.
Well, I now have a new appreciation for toilets and porcelain, and
it's all right here. It's all right here.
Yes, and that's great. Talking about standards of evidence and how do we get there, and how do we help people get to that point where they can question things and understand, okay, these are the standards. These are the watermarks that I need to be able to see or achieve, to then attribute them as truth claims, so to speak. That's what we need to do. So then I'll ask you, because a lot of times when whether we're doing street epistemology or we're just having normal dialogue with the theist, especially Christians, the word faith often, if not always, comes up. Ben, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it comes up fairly regularly. It's belief in the Bible, and I believe in the Bible based on faith. Yeah.
All right. So help everyone understand, whether it's a brand new atheist or still a theist. Why is faith not necessarily a dependable pathway in regards to finding in finding truth in regards to a God claim, a supernatural claim?
Well, if somebody's using faith, the first thing you want to do is define it. Have them explain to you what they mean by that word. And again, it could change halfway through the conversation. And it's, if you start to sense that that's happening, just, okay, how are you using faith in this moment? Typically what definitions come up, we've got hope and trust. So a lot of times, and then it gets complicated, because if you talk to an apologist, they're going to say, well, I have a faith, and it's the word pistis, which means having belief with evidence. But most people will say hope or trust. And then it's all you've got to do, realize I could believe anything based on hope and trust. Could I hold a false belief based on hope or trust? I hope something is true. What does that have to do with the claim that it is true? I trust that something is true. What does that have to do with the fact that it is true? I trust that I have milk in the refrigerator. Is the truth that there is milk in the refrigerator related at all to the fact that there is milk in the refrigerator? You can basically take that and move it outside of the realm. So you take faith, and the question really becomes, how confident based on faith alone can you be? We could take it a million different ways. I've got a bunch of different questions I could ask there, or hypotheticals, but my favorite one's obviously the TikTok, but
ooh, yeah. So if you ever meet Ben in real life, just know that the breath will be fresh. He's got the TikTok Tic Tacs.
That's right.
Or Tic Tac TikTok, something like that.
Fresh.
But yeah, in faith, in regards to this conversation, as we start to move towards the SE, or the Street Epistemology part of the show, which will be the larger part of the show. To me, faith is now not being a believer, not being a Christian. Faith to me is, well, it's on our song. I did it on the intro. Faith is bullshit. It's bullshit, and I know Christians don't like to hear that. They actually hate hearing that. But if you think about it, even you go to Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I don't even know what the hell that even means.
Yeah.
Like when you break down that one verse, what are you even really talking about? And it's believe it, but we don't have a standard of evidence. Because like even you say, pistis, a lot of people want to go back to. I'm very familiar with that word, and Apostle Mike and I joke about that word a lot. How can you have if you have evidence, you don't need faith, right? Am I wrong?
Well, and it's really a matter of, would you rather have faith or evidence? And if you could be left with one, which one would you rather have?
Right. And if I have evidence, I no longer need faith because I have evidence. So it's not a faith. It's not a belief. It's now knowledge. I've come to an understanding that it's now a truth claim. It's now knowledge, not a belief. Am I off base there?
No. Yeah, you're exactly. I agree with you 100%. And kind of the front that I like to work on as a street epistemologist or just as a person who's trying to kind of reach across and bring people, I guess, to our side, I would say that the best way to acknowledge that, we're not here to deliver a message. We're trying to perhaps instill doubt in the strong claims that people have or the certainty that a person has. So when I speak with someone about faith, like I might agree 100%. Yeah, faith is bullshit. Great. I'm with you. And then when we start to have a conversation with someone who uses faith, I have an issue a little bit with coming at them with, well, faith is bullshit.
For the record, I'm not. If we're in an SD setting, that's what we're doing. I'm not talking about. You said faith. Faith's bullshit. We're done.
It could be helpful when we talk about to our side. Look, we know faith is bullshit. Yeah, absolutely. So, what do we do about it? How do we eradicate it? And it's about that reaching across and using terms and conversational methods which instill doubt and allow people to question on their own and have the freedom. And it's like, what you say with your kids, we want to love people enough that we give them the freedom to make their own choices. And that's part of the reason why I love being an American. I know people like to assume atheists are like anti-American or something. They're like, we got God and country. No, like our country is amazing because we are able to speak our mind. We are able to do things. And I've been trying to lean more into my my patriotic side and making sure that people recognize, like, I love our country so much. And but that doesn't mean it's because I love it that I criticize it and I criticize the people in it. So
America.
Yeah, America. As it's Veterans Day this week on Wednesday. Yeah. Thank you to all of our veterans.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you guys. I have both my grandparents I'm technically a son of the Revolution. So like I can trace my ancestry to the Revolutionary War. It's a very big deal within my family, but I also don't believe in sucking everybody's dick just because they were in the military. There's a difference there, but sorry.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll just stop there.
Anyway, back to faith.
What about it?
So the kind of my go-to, and I think if I'm giving credit where credit's due, Anthony might be the first one that I heard use this strategy or tactic or whatever is okay. So if faith is the reason that you believe, that's your pathway. That's the reason you believe, because the Bible says that they are saved by grace through faith. So if it's through faith that you find your salvation, your belief, would we agree or can we agree that faith in and of itself can lead us to both true and untrue things or beliefs? And what I found in that conversation is that is almost automatically a stumbling stone. As soon as they have to really evaluate it, because most people that I talk to have not been asked that question. They just think faith is the end all be all, and they're like, oh shit. Yeah,
It
can we talk
instills
later?
that cognitive dissonance as soon as you point it out. Well, and that's why I like that outsiders test. Well, like, could a Hindu believe in Vishnu based on faith alone, or would they be justified? And it's hard to use that word. You have to use, not everybody thinks about it as much as we have. So you just say, well, would they be able to believe it just as much as you would? And would you say that they're correct, just as correct, or not, and why? And yeah, I love that question.
Yeah, and like I said, big ups to Magna Bosco, because I think that's the first time I heard that, and I still use it all the time now. Even when I talk to family members or whatever it is, I think that should be a go-to if you're trying to have that kind of conversation. So, so let's pivot here, Ben, and let's get into the kind of the build up to Sunday, and
Okay.
Let's talk a little SE. So for those that maybe just jumping on, Ben G, he's our Bruce Lee here at here at Tart Live is what I was trying to say. He's our Bruce Lee of SE and a student of the game. And before we have a little video. It's not too long. A little video that we got queued up and ready to go. But Ben, give the viewers your best definition or description of what street epistemology is.
So what we're about to watch is Magna Bosco going out and soliciting interlocutors. Basically, we've got a person walking by. You say, "Hey, do you have a minute for an interview?" And then he kind of solicits a belief that the person has. In this case, it's going to be God. And we talk about the reasons why that person has for believing in God. Peter Boghossian would put this as would phrase this as an intervention, or so you're basically intervening into a thought process that a person has about a belief that they hold. So this is like a very distilled version. Again, the idea is that people could use this method for any belief in any setting. And I use it with my family, my friends, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok all the time. But this is really a very distilled version. He's gone out there and solicited this conversation ethically, I think, and I hope you'll recognize that as well. So yeah, roll the tape.
Cool. Let's pull this. Add to this. There we go.
Oh, we're on the side. I love it.
Ooh. All right. Let's get this thing started here. And for just real quick, so you guys know, you can find Anthony Magnabosco on the YouTubes, and he also has the websites available there in the description, and all that'll be on the video. The video descriptions when he's on Sunday, but I think it's streetepistemology.org is it?
.com and .org. I think .org pops up the international organization. Streetepistemology.com will link you to all the resources, different content creators, links to where you can buy the books that are out there, and then like a Google Drive with additional resources too. It's pretty extensive over there.
Yeah, and I knew he had two domains. I just wanted to make sure I got them right. So .com and .org. So streetepistemology.com and .org. You can find them, and we'll dig in here.
Can we turn it up a little bit? Yeah, it's still coming across pretty soft. I can't hear very well at all. Sorry about that, guys. Everybody else is probably hearing what I'm hearing. I don't know if it's coming through the computer.
Well, let's see. Barely audible. All right. Well, give me 1 second, guys. I'll pull this off. I don't know why
we'll have to restart it. But that's all right. So what we're gonna see, we got Carlos on there, and he is a student at the school. And again, there's going to be kind of this like selection bias that I think people are aware of, that you've got people who are young adults who are leaving the home for the first time. I think one of the common criticisms would be that these people are more prone to thinking of, I guess, like criticizing their own beliefs or their parents' beliefs maybe for the first time. And I know that like down here, so I'm from Georgia, and I've got family members or tangential acquaintances, people who will say that like colleges are a place where people become liberals or where they're brainwashed or anything. And I can honestly say that was not the case for me at all. Even in Alabama, we had like the Gideon Bibles handed out in front of the library every year, churches on every corner. There were 13 Christian organizations on my campus, and it wasn't until that we had the Secular Student Alliance at my school that there was something else or a different kind of special interest. But you think it's going to work this time?
I think we should have it ready here.
Let's give it a shot.
And I got it turned all the way up.
Hey, dude.
There you go.
Hey. Hey, man, what's up?
Not much.
You look like you're having fun.
Yeah, just jamming.
What are you
listening? I
listening?
just got my new iPhone, so.
You got the new one?
Oh, it's not the new one. It's mine.
It's your new one.
Yeah, I used to have one that looked like it'd been shot or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've seen a few of those.
Mm-hmm. With like weapons.
Yes.
Cracked glass.
Yeah. You know, you can put clear tape over that.
Really?
Like clear shipping tape, so you don't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not you. Let's just say you break the screen on that one.
Uh-huh.
Put a little clear tape over it, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
Hey.
I wouldn't put it past me to break this one. I have a habit of
Be
breaking
careful.
phones.
Do you have like 5 minutes to just have a conversation about God?
Sure.
Okay, cool. My name's Anthony.
Nice to meet you, Anthony.
What is your
Carlos.
name, sir? Carlos.
Yeah,
Okay.
Charles, Charlie, anything.
all right.
They all work.
What are you taking here?
Right now, sociology and college algebra. I'm a political science major.
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursdays I have those classes, and then government, psych, and anthropology on Monday, Wednesday.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah, very busy.
Dang.
It's taxing.
It sounds like it.
Mhm.
Do you have time for a God in your life? Do you believe in a God?
I actually I go to Chi Alpha, the church here on campus.
Mhm.
Yeah, mostly on Thursdays at about
Okay.
8:30.
All
Usually I
right.
go over there. I'm part of a Bible study.
You're Christian then.
Yes.
How strong are you on the belief? If let's say 0% was I don't believe, and
I do wanna
100%
pause.
was I absolutely believe, where would you put yourself on that, Carlos?
Yeah, and I want to make a comment about, so this is from 2014, it's about six years ago, and I remember when this came out too, so I see some people in the comments, they're saying that too. First thing he does is build rapport. The first part that he talks about is not about belief. He doesn't dive right in. What I found interesting about this conversation just now, as a contrast to what he's typically doing these days, he asks if he wants to have a conversation about God. And nowadays he kind of asks about different topics, and it has them come up organically. I just wanted to point those two things out, rapport, and that's still there today, but asking specifically about God, maybe not.
Yeah. I love the way he kind of lets them pick their flavor, so to speak. Now, it's cool.
No.
At a solid 75. I had 75%, I believe.
Okay.
25. The 25% is just, I don't know, inhibitions, things that are preventing me from fully embracing it.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. I'm
Seriously, because it's probably not easy to say, especially
Yeah,
if you're a
it's,
part of a group like that.
I feel like honesty is necessary. Too many people lie about their faith, or they try and pretend that they believe in something they don't. They put on a facade. But no, I'm about 75% sure that I believe.
Were you ever at the 100?
Once upon a time, I was.
And what brought you down to where you are now?
I think my parents' divorce. I think definitely you lose a bit of your faith in a higher power when your life is just kind of ripped apart. And so that's what happened, at least in my case. I saw the divorce was pretty nasty. My sister, I have 3 little sisters. It was tough for them, and I had to be the big older brother, the strong one. So that definitely, I think, affected it.
Do you think if they had stayed married and you didn't have to go through that traumatic event, and your sisters, going through that traumatic event, and you seeing that, do you think that you still would have been at the 100%
I
mark
think
today?
so, because we used to go to church as a family, and then it became I go to church with dad sometimes, go with my mom sometimes, and just all your beliefs get mixed up, especially because of the different churches. My mom's a Roman Catholic.
Were you
dad's
getting
a Christian.
different messages?
Yeah.
Conflicting messages were
Yeah,
causing
very
it.
conflicting messages. The
I'm gonna
Christian
pause here,
faith is a
too.
lot more open and receptive.
I want to talk about real quick. Carlos immediately dove into some deep personal reasons why he believes and why he doesn't believe. That is not possible if you haven't built that rapport. If you're not on friendly terms with someone, you're not going to get into a deep dive. If I don't feel vulnerable with Oz, we're not going to talk about my childhood. If I don't trust you in the comments to treat me like a human being,
Right.
we're not going to learn anything about me. So I want to remind people that sometimes, even today, there was a Twitter troll who interjected into one of my conversations, just out of left field, attacking the person I was talking to, and I felt so bad because it could have gone a different direction. So yeah, definitely be on friendly terms.
Right. And there's at least once an episode, we hashtag deep dive.
Yeah, hashtag deep dive.
Receptive, and then the Catholic faith is kind of more staunch and traditional, and they're no nonsense.
Yeah.
And so that's right. My mom got custody, and I had to deal with that part, the Roman Catholic part, and I guess that's what lowered my faith a little bit.
I find it fascinating that this upheaval in your life with regards to your parents' marriage resulted in you sliding down on the scale.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, I guess, yeah, that's the correlation between my faith falling down. It all has to do with my parents separating. It was really just, I had a crisis of conscience, just a crisis of faith in general. I lost faith in a lot of things, including my relationship with God. I think father figures in general, and God is, our father.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt slighted, like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you tearing apart my life? I felt like I was blaming my dad, and in essence, I was also blaming that dad, the almighty dad.
Why did you level off at the 75% and not just continue drifting down?
I guess just internal faith, like fire in the belly that I refuse to let go of. There are a couple. There's the mental.
What do you mean by
doubts.
that exactly?
I'm a very passionate person, I'd like to say, and so anything that I once liked or I once believed in, I'd hate to just abandon ship altogether. There's something inside me that refuses to ever just give up altogether, and so I mean, it slid down a little bit. I have my doubts, but I never let it reach the point where I was going to have like an absolute destruction of my faith. I still wanted to make sure that if it's what I once believed, then might as well stay true to myself and keep believing. And that's basically how I see it.
Does your rigor in just wanting to maintain the belief make the belief true?
I'm not sure. I feel like I want to maintain it so bad that I make it true to myself that I'm a strong believer. So yeah, I guess trying to keep up with my faith, it does.
You're making.
And if I'll stop it there, because that's many times what I hear. They don't come. Christians won't come out and say it. Theists won't come out and say it, but they want it so badly to be true that they do convince themselves that this may be true, even though the standards of evidence would be really low, or really weak. Do you experience that in your interactions, Ben?
Well, what I appreciate here is that we've got Carlos describing the reasons that he believes, and then talking about the percentages that he's at, and yeah, the reasoning that he's using. It almost doesn't matter. So in the context of street epistemology, it doesn't really matter what the reasons are, as long as we're able to connect them directly to the belief that he has, or able to connect them directly to the confidence that he has that the belief is true. So yeah, I mean, I get like a whole bunch of different reasons, and I think that's part of the reason why it's important to ask a person. So what happens is, like, everybody's got a different reason. The failure, I think, on our part would be to assume that a person is coming at it from a particular reason, or making the assumption. For instance, I'll reference that Twitter fight that came in earlier. Somebody, we were talking about abortion, and the person came in and accused the other person of being a misogynist and hating women, all these kinds of things, when that person had clearly laid out their reasoning. And if you come in and you just, it's basically the equivalent of doing committing a straw man fallacy, is by saying, well, you believe this, therefore you must be this, and I could just dismiss your claims. When in reality, there are good points from every point of view, or good reason. Everybody thinks they have good reasoning. And the idea is just that we question it, look at it from all angles, and allow that person to come to their own conclusion. And trying to be honest about it is the hard thing. But yeah, I hear that reason a lot too. All that being said.
Is there ever a good reason for a deep dive?
You don't need a good reason for a deep dive.
True?
I'm not sure how much of it is me and how much of it is I do just believe it. And it's a combination of the two, I'd say, of the fact that I really just do 75% heartedly believe, have a strong belief. And then the other half, I guess, is that I want to believe so bad that I do believe that it is so.
What does it say to the truth of the belief if it's just, a large part of it is just wanting to believe in it?
It slights it a little bit, yeah. It makes it seem less true and more of a yearning on my part.
Sorry. They're ruining my interview right now.
More of a I know, right?
Assholes.
But
So
you do have a point there. The yearning for something to be true, it doesn't necessarily make it completely true. It's more of a me wanting to believe it to be true. You're right,
Carlos, but why are you why is that a we just hit our timer.
It's fine. We'll continue.
Is that a honest position to hold?
No, it's not. It really is not. It's a position, almost a fake position, a facade. I'm almost as bad as the people that I say are putting on fronts. If I say I do believe in God, and then at the end of the day it's only 75%, I'm sliding myself and I'm sliding God. So I am in the wrong there, definitely. It's I don't know, a lot of soul searching deep down, but I still do try my best for the most part to make sure that my faith is assured. But you're definitely right that it's making it look bad if I'm forcing myself to believe. It's kind of diminishing my faith and the honesty of it.
You mentioned faith several times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a definition of it? How are you using it? How are you using that word?
Faith in the connotation that what I believe in, the ethics that I hold close to my heart, and the values that the Bible has taught me, the things that I like to retain. My faith. I guess that's how I'd use it. The things that I believe, ultimately what I believe in.
What would have to happen in your life to get you to move from the 75% mark down to the 50% mark?
It wouldn't have to be anything spectacular. I think it would just take a little more dedication on my part, because I haven't really, with all the classes and stuff, I've been trying to balance out my time, and I miss Bible study sometimes. I miss church, and I could get more dedicated to.
No. Maybe misunderstood.
Oh.
I want to know what it would take to get you to move further down on the scale.
Oh, to move further down.
Mm-hmm. What would have to happen in your life?
Further down. I'm not sure. Maybe the death of a family member. I know that always strikes up. A crisis of conscience, crisis of faith.
Let's say, not to like get have any bad vibe here, but let's say as you're walking away, you get a phone call that a very close family member just passed away.
Ooh.
Would that cause you to move down on the scale?
It probably would, just a little bit.
Really?
I think humans, we all suffer from the woe is me. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why me?
Yeah.
We all suffer from that, and I think I would also be one of the people who would definitely blame God. I feel like it's not fair. That's what everybody does right away. They jump to conclusions, and everything's his fault. Let's
say you were walking away and you get a phone call, and somebody says that they just discovered that you inherited $1 million. Would you move up from the scale? On the scale from that point?
As terrible as it sounds, I think I might. I think my first words really would be thank God, and I think that's very telling. I would feel like I moved up on the scale. It's self.
You see what's happening here is that it sounds like whether the outcome was good or bad or good, you're interpreting that as this God working in your life.
Yeah, definitely. That is.
It seems like you've almost set up a scenario where regardless of the outcome, you're going to view it as this God helping you or working in your life.
Yeah.
In what way does that make the belief in the God true?
I'm not sure, because it almost diminishes like the free will aspect of life if you're putting so much faith in the hands of God. But ultimately, I'm not sure. I guess that's all I'd have to say. Is it really is eliminating the free will aspect of my life. So if I am always saying that, well, it's God, leave everything up to God, whether the outcome is good or bad, it's in His hands. It kind of diminishes the role that I play in my own life.
Does it diminish the likelihood that there's even a God in the life working?
It does. It could, just a little bit. Yeah, I think it could.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Have a great day.
You too.
Can we stop there?
I didn't
real
get
quick?
your name.
Anthony.
All right, so at this point, he's concluded the investigation kind of point. So what he was just doing, the extended part, the longest section that he does, is asking about, he's really kind of probing at this belief. He's trying to understand, right? And so seek first to understand it. You're not putting in the idea that there might not be a God. He didn't do that. If you'll notice, he didn't mention God almost at all. He elicited responses. So you're trying to understand why or what kind of influences are affect his belief. And so here at this point, he's concluding. So we start, there's almost this beautiful kind of narrative that occurs with each one of these. You start with building rapport. You identify something to talk about. You ask about it. You use Socratic questioning. You use the outsider's test for faith. If you can whittle it down to faith. If there's good evidence, you learn something potentially. And then, so I wanted to stop here and make sure that we said, okay, here's the close of that segment. And what we can show, I guess, whatever's here. If Oz, you don't have anything to add.
Yep. No, I'm good. Let's close. We got about a minute left here.
Okay.
Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye. I'm going to stand over here so I get that music behind me.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm doing is trying to talk to people that believe in a God. I want to understand how they concluded that their belief is correct. And typically what I find is that the method that people use to get to the God belief is not extremely reliable.
Yeah.
Right? I believe it because I was born in it, or I believe it because...
I noticed that when you were talking to me, I kind of realized all the errors of my way, or just, I don't know, like the little quirks in my faith and how it's all very unconventional and unorthodox when I really think about it. Yeah,
Oh, really?
It put things in perspective a lot. Like, yeah, my entire bus ride home, I was just thinking about, like, I had a crisis of faith. I was like, what do I believe in? Do I believe in myself more than anything? And I like to project a higher power just as a coping mechanism, or do I really believe in a higher power? And I don't know. It was like, it's been in my brain ever since then.
Interesting.
But we're about to run late to class, so thanks for
I'll
talking.
catch you later. Maybe we can talk some more.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
See you, man.
Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure.
Same here.
Ooh, I miss shaking hands. I miss when that was a thing. But right there at the end, he made sure that they ended on a positive note. You end with something positive. Thank you, even if it's just thanks for talking with me. And I have those chats all the time online where it's been contentious and maybe there was even a little bit of a debate in there. But you come away from it with a positive feeling. And it's important that you do that. It's like the how to win friends and influence people. You gotta have you gotta leave everybody's gotta leave feeling good. You gotta find win-win situations. I've learned something and you've taught me something, even if that's it.
Yeah, and I love going. I actually appreciate listening to some of his older stuff sometimes, even more now, because we've heard all the new stuff, because you get to see him in those developmental phases, and as he's learning more and getting better, and then to appreciate where he's at today, what he's done with SE I think is awesome. But Ben, one of the, first thing for those of you now or later, the reason we played that video and really didn't jump in too much is a lot of people don't even really know what street epistemology is, whether it's a theist or an atheist. I've talked to atheists who are like, what are you talking about, street epistemology? So we wanted to play that video so you could see an action from the guy that's really owned it and take ownership of street epistemology and championed it. So that way you can hear it, feel it, taste it, whatever you want to do with it. It's all there. So that's the first reason we did that. And then the other thing is, now that we're not believers anymore, Ben, this is what we talked about as far as SE and how it's impacted us now outside of religion, now that we don't believe. For me, like I shared with you, is being taught that you can't question faith. You can't question what you believe in. All of a sudden, when I stumbled upon Anthony before I met anybody on TART or anything, and I stumbled upon this guy, I'm like, man, this guy, I thought he was literally doing it for a hobby. I thought he did this shit for fun, and it was like, man, like this guy actually like goes and asks people what they believe. Yeah. Like where I come from, you don't do that. You get slapped. Somebody slap the taste out of your mouth. You don't do that. So it was really cool for me to see that, see that and hear that, because it made me start to go through those line of questions. When I'd hear him question people, I would start asking myself those questions, and I'm like, oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Yeah. And then fast forward to today, we already talked about my, my relationship with my kids and how I treat that. But now, whether it's, with my kids and my wife, and my professional world, when people say or make an assertion, or state something as a fact, it's like the first two things that come out of my mouth are one of two things: either how did you find that to be true, or why do you believe that? And it all really roots in street epistemology and me just listening to it. So how has it impacted you now outside of faith?
Yeah, there's like a certain thought process that shifts. And I think really for the better, because I think it's really easy. Like I see people who are really aggressive, and I guess I could say like my personality type is not very aggressive. I've always come at it from, I'm going to wait till I know something to say something. And this kind of gives me a way. In fact, this is kind of what it's done for me. It's given me a way to participate in conversations and have confidence in the things that I'm saying, because I can ask questions and I can probe beliefs and have pretty good confidence that like I'm using an honest method. I'm like, look, if I don't understand something, that's not my fault. I need you to help me understand. It's coming from a place of humility. It's coming from a place of, I want to understand your point of view. If I think that I see flaws in your point of view, I'm just going to ask about them. We're going to have a conversation. I want you to explain those things to me. Because if you don't fully understand it, then we may not get anywhere. We may just, at the most, I'll understand where you're coming from. And I think that's a pretty positive place. And another positive outcome is that maybe you'll recognize that I'm not as much of an extremist as you might think. You might say, "Oh, you're not like those other atheists. You're not jumping down my throat. You're not calling me names. You're not using fallacious arguments against me, like and claiming to be the reasonable one." Like, no, I'm just trying to understand. And it's definitely changed my perspective.
Right. And I'm going to pop this up here. It's kind of a comment or a question here. Robert Hamilton says, have you stopped to consider that throughout the whole conversation, Carlos proceeded from the assumption that Anthony was another Christian? Ben, I'll let you answer first. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say people generally assume. I mean, what was one of the first comments you guys made when I popped in on here? You remember?
Youth pastor.
Yeah, you guys were like, oh, here's another youth pastor. Oh, I think it was Pastor John, maybe that. There's that freebie for the day. But literally, people make that assumption that I'm this really nice Christian guy, and yes, that was my goal until I was in high school or until I was graduating high school. But yeah, I think that's an assumption people make about other people all the time. People have met more atheists than they realize. If you're within a Christian church and you just realize, yeah, there's a church on every other corner, everybody's going to church on Sundays. Or if you don't go to church, maybe you just haven't been to church in a while, but you're still a Christian. No, a quarter of Americans are not Christians, decidedly not Christians or more. I think it's like a quarter are not religious, and then that's like 30% are not Christian, something like that. So yes, you realize that. And I've had a conversation where somebody said, well, the question usually isn't, does God exist? The question is usually which version of Christianity is true. And so people aren't used to being asked those questions. And I think that really reflects what you were saying at the start of the show, where you were saying you were taught basically not to question it. And so for somebody to come in and ask questions like that, it's an immediate red flag. Oh, this person is an other. But I will say, Robert, Carlos appreciated the conversation by the end, and they were able to leave on good terms. And Anthony understood Carlos a little bit better. Carlos, I feel like, came out better understanding his own point of view. And if that ain't good stuff, I don't know what is.
Well, and I would say, why is that relevant? Well, why in the world is that even a relevant point? Because, and I don't say that to be, to be an asshole, but if we're asking questions that challenge people to consider what they believe in and motivate and drive them to seek out truth rather than what would not be true, why does it matter whether it's an atheist or a theist? I think that's an irrelevant. I think that's an irrelevant point. We want more people. If more theists want to go out and ask those similar questions, have at it. Have at it. Now, you'll probably end up becoming an atheist, but have at it.
No, and again, I would say like one of the foundational things is seeking first to understand. So you're not out there to deliver a message. And that's ultimately what's different between a street epistemology and a street preacher. Street preachers are out there delivering a message. Street epistemologists are out there getting people to think about why they believe what they believe. And ideally, that's all it is. I know there are people who claim street epistemology online, and I know I'm kind of doing a purity test, but if you read the books, if you understand where the term comes from, you would understand that street epistemology, the way it's coined, is a method of discussing the reasons why a person believes what they believe, has nothing to do with the beliefs that you hold personally.
Right. And
the people's elbow. Let's go.
Ben's out here. Could you smell? No, anyway.
The rock.
But no, it is amazing how, in those conversations, how impactful it is, and then how it impacts, our lives outside of faith, and like I said, in our day-to-day lives, because it all of a sudden everything's more clear, and you require, and this is why I wanted to make sure we segmented the show the way we did. All of a sudden, those measures or those levels of evidence go up, to be able to convince you that something is real, and it's not just, well, somebody said it, so I believe it. Mom and dad said it, so I believe it. No, the standards of evidence have risen. And the more you ask yourself those tough questions, or more someone has asked those tough questions, if they're truly answering them, honestly, it slows you down in the process to make you really think. Because how many conversations do we get into where we just, yep, nope, yep, nope. But if you're asking, going through street epistemology and their true epistemic questions, why do you believe what you believe? How did you get there? Those kind of things. You have to slow down and actually think about what you're saying. And that's what I love about that process.
Well, I was going to say, it just occurred to me. So you asked me before, in what ways has street epistemology changed the way that I think about things? What's up, Jaws Balls?
Jaws Balls.
And I also see a thing down there about truth wanted with theists using SE. I love it. Absolutely, they should. Good Christian, more as an atheist. Yeah, great stuff, guys. What I was going to say is, I've been kind of I don't know if accused is the right word, but people have noticed that I don't like to have light conversations anymore. What they consider to be light conversation. What tends to happen is I almost always ask, well, how did you realize that? Or why are we choosing to do this tonight? That might be it. I'm like, why are we choosing to go out and play bowl tonight instead of staying home and do this other thing? Is this other thing really going to make us more happy than if we did this other thing? Is spending this much money on this activity worth it when we could spend no money and do this other activity? So it really has allowed me to, really it's about making decisions and on what values that I base those on. And that's kind of where I am right now is what values am I like any decision that's coming up. Like, okay, if I want to buy a house, that's a decision coming up in my life. Okay, at what cost per month would I afford a house? Is that worth it with a certain percentage? Am I going to be able to get out of it? There's all sorts of uncertainties there, so I have to choose a couple of foundations from which to decide. If I want to get married soon, am I going to be able to afford a ring? Should I finance a ring? Is it worth getting a big enough ring? Or does it really matter? Is she going to love me the same one way or the other? Those are the kinds of questions that I guess kind of come up in my life now. And you guys know like The Good Place? Have you seen The Good Place, Oz?
No.
There's this character in there named Chidi, who's the philosophy guy, and he's in the bad place. Spoiler alert, because he's not good at making decisions. Every single decision he's been frozen, and I like to think that if that's my greatest flaw, that's not too bad. I think, and usually I can figure out a way to make some kind of decision, but I do get that. I do get that vibe sometimes. People are tired of the deep conversations.
Yep, and I'm going through. They're getting silly talking shit in the chat, so I was reading that.
Always talking shit down there in the chat.
Oh shit! Friday night talk. Oh shit. But no, if you guys have questions, pop them in real quick before Ben and I jump off here. So Ben, again, make sure everybody knows what's happening Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday night, we've got Anthony Magnabosco. It's going to be my first time. I know there's going to be a segment in there where I've got 30, 45 minutes, just me and Anthony speaking for the first time in this format. I've gotten to message him. We've had conversations before, but this will be our first time chatting live and on air and on the Atheist Roundtable. So if you weren't excited before, you should be, because I am. The other thing is you need to understand that Street Epistemology is not just what Magnabosco does. It's not just what I do. It's not just what Deep Discussions or Cordial Curiosity out there does. Those guys produce great content and they further the cause. But if you want to learn more, I highly recommend this book. It's called How to Have Impossible Conversations. It's a very practical guide. I'm on chapter 3 right now. It's written a lot in the style of how to win friends and influence people, where you get like point by point tips, pointers on how to have productive conversations. So that's by Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay, How to Have Impossible Conversations, a very practical guide. But yeah, we'll be talking about Anthony's experiences. I'll get to ask questions. I'll get to figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong? How do I do it better? One of my first questions is going to be like, how do I stay myself and do Street Epistemology? Anthony, I don't know anything about you. Tell me about you. Who are you? So,
whoa.
There you go.
Whoa, bro. Whoa,
those are the kinds of things that we'll get into Sunday.
And reconsider this.
But for real, I'm going to be starstruck because it's a person I've heard speaking for 7 years, and so here I am.
But and we all of us, all of us here at TART, Pasta, myself, Ben, Murdershed, Steve, just Jeff, we all really look up to and appreciate Anthony and what he does for the community, and and what he does as far as just kind of setting the the watermark or the bar of how we can have conversations, and I know personally sometimes my humanity gets the best of me and I get out of bounds and go a little buck wild, but he and Pasta remind me either through video or phone call that we don't have to do it that way. But Mrs. Oz said, Ben, don't do that.
It's too late. It's already done.
But no, let's see. I feel Ben's excitement.
Good.
Yes. No, it's going to be fun. So I have him on, and then we got some other things in the hopper, so to speak. And You should probably just eat the whole thing out of pure excitement.
All right, that was probably loud.
No, you're fine.
I'll mute it.
Then Monday we'll have K-Nebs on. She's part of the part of Jeff's Discord, and that'll be fun. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and that's all we'll talk about tonight. Ben, anything from you, my man, before we sign off?
Hey, have productive conversations. That's the goal. Reconsider your beliefs. Pick one belief tonight. Anybody listening, pick one belief. Ask yourself, why do I believe that? Or, what do I actually know about that? Toilets. That's all I'll say.
And that was actually a good analogy. If you guys missed that, go back and listen to the entire stream, because it was actually a great analogy. Because here I thought I knew something about toilets, and I didn't know shit about toilets.
I love it. Oz is the man. You didn't know I could do that.